Hi, my name's Joe. Welcome to the Focus on Christ podcast. This is episode number 16. I am super excited to be talking to you today. I'm just really looking forward to the material that we're going to be discussing today in the 16th episode. I know you're going to love it. I love it. And I can't wait to share it with you. Before we get started, I just want to remind you that if you haven't been over to focusonchrist.com recently, just remember that we have released a new product on there. It's a 14-day focus challenge. It is going to be super beneficial for you in your Christian walk. It's really going to help you to stay focused and to identify those simple, easy, and effective strategies to help you keep Christ at the center of all you do, whether it be at work, whether it be in your business, whether it be in your faith, or whether it be in your home front, or any other area that you might be applying those leadership principles, those self-leadership principles, or organizational leadership principles and practices in your life. It is designed specifically to give you the tools and resources to be able to do that in a simple, easy, and effective manner. And I know how it could transform your life. So go on over there and check that out. Let's go ahead and dive right into episode 16. Today we are discussing the law of victory. And it's from John C. Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It is a fantastic law, and John has done a really good job of simplifying the material so that it'll be easy for everyone to understand. So we're going to go over as I mentioned in the last episode, I am restructuring the format of these a little bit so that they'll be a little bit more concise and really dive a little bit deeper into some of the material, maybe from a teaching standpoint. Then we'll go to the Bible and we'll look at how it's framed up in the Bible as well, and how the Bible points to these leadership principles, and they're not man-made, but they are Bible-based. So we'll get into that as well. So the law of victory states that leaders find a way for the team to win. So leaders find a way for the team to win. This is so critical as a leader, that you find a way to help your organization win. So I'm going to give you a couple steps that you can kind of think about as you're going through the law, as you're processing the law of victory and trying to understand it a little bit better. Leaders that are able to find victory are open and teachable. They remain open and teachable. One of the challenges as a leader is that as you climb as you move up the 5 levels of leadership, you're going to encounter there's this tendency to let your ego get involved and to lose your teachability, lose your coachability over the course of time. And this is really a natural tendency. However, great leaders keep this under control. They always remain teachable. They always remain open to being coached and learning new things and finding new ways to do that and to implement the feedback from their team and different things such as that. So you have to remain open and to be open and teachable. Leaders that apply the law of the victory well, they remove obstacles from their past. Now, this is a huge deal for a lot of people. Every single one of us, no matter how seasoned of a leader we are, no matter how great of a leader we are, we all come with baggage. Some of us come with baggage from our past, how we were raised, the limiting beliefs that we were given as a child before we even had a choice on how to, what things to think and accept and what things to not accept in our lives. We have, in my personal walk, I was a member of the church as a child, and I fell away from the faith and wasn't practicing anything. I wasn't even sure what I believed in. I read a lot of books on the occult and studied that for a while, and different types of paganism. I married a non-Christian woman and ended up getting a divorce. I had a rough childhood. I got bullied a lot. I had to deal with a lot of pain, a lot of anger issues. I am extremely introverted in a lot of ways and didn't know how to process my emotions properly. And so I processed everything through anger and hatred. It was a really dark time and a really dark place in my life. And I had to overcome all of those things. But they're my baggage. And I have the choice as a leader to let that baggage color and shape my future, or I have the choice to make better decisions and to lead my life and direct it the way that I want it to go. I can let my past do that for me. I can let my circumstances define my future, or I can choose a better future and set it up for myself for success. So we have to remove the obstacles from our past. We have to let that stuff go. And for some of us, it may need some outside resources in order to be able to do that, and that is absolutely super. It's fine to be able to have, if you need those type of resources, to ensure that you get through these obstacles so that you can be the leader that you have been called to be by God. You have to be willing to sacrifice as a leader if you want to win. And when we're talking about victory, we are talking about winning. There's no, I'm not a huge participation trophy award guy. I want to win. And winning, we're talking about the law of victory, and leaders find a way for the team to win. You have to be willing to sacrifice. In order to move up, you've got to give up. It's not just a saying, it is a fact of life. It's the law of reciprocity, it's the law of polarity. However you want to say that so that you can frame it up in your mind, so that you can accept the fact that if you want to do good and great things, it's going to require great sacrifice. If you, there's hundreds of biblical examples we can look to. Paul the Apostle is the first one that comes into my mind. He wanted to do great things for the Lord. It came at a very significant price for him. You look at Peter, came for a very significant price for him, crucified upside down. Look at what happened at the stoning of Stephen. He wanted to do great things for the Lord, and it came at great price. Not saying everybody will have to pay these martyr type of prices. However, there's a significant price. If you want to move up in leadership and do great things in leadership, you're going to have to give up some things. Starting out, maybe it's an hour of Netflix a week. Maybe it's 2 hours of Netflix a week. Maybe it's Netflix altogether, or cable TV, or who knows what it's going to be for you. But you have to be willing to sacrifice in order to achieve the law of victory. And if you're working on a team, say a big team in a company, you have to be willing to sacrifice so you can maneuver and so the team can move forward and you can achieve that win for the team. You have to be able to recognize the keys to victory. There is nothing like running a race. I'll give you a really good example. Have you ever watched the spoofs, video spoofs, where especially these young kids in Pee Wee football, and they're running down the field, they catch the ball, and then they run the wrong way. And then they score a touchdown for the opposing team. It's like getting on the track and facing the wrong direction and running a race backwards. If you cannot see what it takes to win, you will never be able to win. Have you ever tried to run a race with a blindfold on? Leaders have to be able to see the finish line and see where victory is so that they can help their team achieve that. And it takes a personal commitment to success. If you want to win, you have to have a commitment to success. I call this, in the focused goal planning system, this is a D. This is a definitive. This is the line in the sand that I will not, this is the demarcation line. I will win. I will not cross that line. You have to have that type of commitment. The level of commitment that you have to achieving your vision, your mission, your goal, however you want to say that, your commitment as the leader to that particular task is going to be mirrored by the people, by your followers. If you have a lackadaisical and a limited commitment to that goal, then you cannot expect the people that are following you to have a greater commitment. If they do have a greater commitment to the vision than what you do, they will either go around you or they will go find an organization that has that high level of commitment that they are looking for and that is chasing after that vision, and they will go team up with that team instead. They will not accept a lackadaisical leader if they're committed to that vision. The leader has to carry that commitment. They have to be devoted to the win. It's second place is not good enough. And you have to be committed to that in order for you to maximize the law of victory. We're going to go and we're going to look in Judges chapter 3 to look at this from a biblical perspective now. So we're going to go over to Judges chapter 3. And this is, we will be reading the whole chapter. It's 31 verses. and we'll go through it, and we'll try and identify where some of these points came into play and what that looks like from a biblical perspective. So Judges 3 verses 1 through 31 says, "Now these are the nations of the Lord." Let's start over again. "Now these are the nations that the Lord left to test Israel by them. That is, all in Israel who had not experienced all the wars in Canaan. It was only in order that the generations of the people of Israel might know war, to teach war to those who had not known it before. These are the nations, the 5 lords of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, and the Sidonians and the Hivites who lived on Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal Hermon as far as Lebo Hamath. They were for the testing of Israel, to know whether Israel would obey the commandments of the Lord, which he commanded their fathers by the hand of Moses. So the people of Israel lived among the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and their daughters they took to themselves for wives, and their own daughters they gave to their sons, and they served their gods." So this is a pre-framing that's going on here as we prepare for the story, and how we're going to look at 3 different people and how they did and how they applied this kind of framework to the law of victory. The first one is Othniel. It says, "And the people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. They forgot the Lord their God and served the Baals and the Ashereths. Therefore the anger of the God was kindled against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of the Cushan Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia. And the people of Israel served Cushan Rishathaim 8 years. But when the people of Israel cried out to the Lord raised up a deliverer for the people of Israel who saved them, Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. The Spirit of the Lord was upon him, and he judged Israel. He went out to war, and the Lord gave Cushan Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, into his hand. And his hand prevailed over the Cushan Rishathaim. So the land had rest for 40 years. Then Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died." And so we see here that Othniel has been chosen to be the leader that provides victory to Israel. And he goes through this process. We don't get a whole lot of detail here, but you can see how Othniel was able to see that victory, and so he was able to achieve that for Israel. And then it says, starting in verse 12, it says, "And the people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He gathered to himself the Ammonites and the Amalekites, and went and defeated Israel. And they took possession of the city of palms, and the people of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. Then the people of Israel cried out to the Lord, and the Lord raised up for them a deliverer, Ehud, the son of Gera, the Benjaminite, a left-handed man. The people of Israel sent tribute by him to Eglon, the king of Moab. And Ehud made for himself a sword with 2 edges, a cubit in length, and he bound it on his right thigh under his clothes. And he presented tribute to the Eglon, king of Moab. And Eglon was a very fat man. And when Ehud had finished presenting the tribute, he sent away the people who carried the tribute. But he himself turned back at the idols near Gilgal, and said, I have a secret message for you, O king. And he commanded, Silence. And all the attendants went out from his presence. And Ehud came to him as he was sitting alone in the cool roof chamber. And Ehud said, I have a message from God for you. Then he arose from his seat, and Ehud reached with his left hand, took the sword from his right thigh, and thrust it into his belly. And he also went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade, for he did not pull the sword out of his belly. And the dung came out. Then Ehud went out into the porch, and closed the doors of the roof chamber behind him, and locked them. And when he had gone, the servants came, and when they saw that the doors of the roof chamber were locked, they thought, Surely he is relieving himself in the closet of the cool chamber. And they waited until they were embarrassed. But when he still did not open the doors of the roof chamber, they took the key and opened them, and there he lay, and there lay their lord on the floor, dead on the floor. And Ehud escaped while they delayed, and he passed beyond the idols and escaped to Syria. And when he arrived, he sounded the trumpet in the hill country of Ephraim. Then the people of Israel went down with him from the hill country, and he was their leader. And he said to them, Follow me after me, for the Lord has given your enemies to the Moabites into your hand. So they went down after him and seized the fords of the Jordan against the Moabites, and did not allow anyone to pass over. And they killed at that time about 10,000 of the Moabites, all strong, able-bodied men. Not a man escaped. So Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest for 80 years. Here in the story of Ehud, we see a little more of playing out of the law of victory. One of the parts in here that I really like was down here in verse 28 and 29. It says, "So they went down after him and seized the fords of the Jordan against the Moabites and did not allow anyone to pass over." They were able to, that was their line of demarcation. They chose, that was the line where they said, and that was a natural terrain feature that they use to, as their line of demarcation, said, you will not pass. And anybody that passed, they just slaughtered. And so Ehud was the leader that was able to see that victory and pick that target and set that line. And he had to be willing to do a lot of things. One of them was sacrifice. He had to go into the king's chamber. He had to go back, and he had to take care of King Eglon and dispatch him. That was a sacrifice for him because it came at great cost. What if he got caught? It was only because he was a left-handed man that when they searched him before he went into the king, which was a standard practice at that particular time, they didn't think to look where a left-handed man might put his weapon. They checked to the right side because most people were predominantly right. That's why the story emphasizes the fact that he was a left-handed man. So there's this sacrifice, and he had to put his fear aside. He had to put his life aside to serve as God wanted him to serve. So there was a lot of sacrifice there that went on. In both of these stories here, it talks about you have to be willing to put the past aside. And God had to make that choice for the tribe of Israel, and he established these leaders in that place. And the thing that they had to put aside was all the idols. They had to put aside all that idol worship. They had to give that up. And the way God that made that happen is he sent them into captivity. And it was not the way I like to give stuff up, but it was how God was very effective in cleansing that out of the tribe of Israel for at least a little while. And then, like I said, Ehud was able to recognize how he was going to have victory in this process, and so he chose that terrain feature, and that became that line of commitment that I will not cross. I will not let anybody come across this line and destroy us. And then, so they through that process, through that victory, they had 80 years of rest. And then Shamgar was next. It says, after him was Shamgar the son of Anath, who killed 600 of the Philistines with an ox goad, and he also saved Israel. And so after that, we have another successful judge over the tribe of Israel, which is was very, very problematic for the Israelites because they love to stray away from God's command. They love to do things their way and to try things their way. And so it took these strong leaders to be able to step in and show them the way and show them victory. So that is the law of victory. From a biblical perspective, it's a nice Old Testament story that kind of displays how the law of victory plays out for key leaders. And it says the Lord established Ehud as their leader. And so he was applying the law of victory in various forms to build up Ehud to serve as his judge over Israel. So you see the things that Ehud was doing in response to the Lord, and you see how the law of victory, God used the law of victory to lay that out so he would be successful. So it's a very cool story, and it's really neat. And like I said, this is the law of victory. It's probably one of my favorite laws because a lot of these things are super easy for me to implement and to apply in my life. They just kind of I like to win at just about any cost. So the law of victory is probably one of my stronger places in life. I'm willing to give up what I have to give up. I've given up a lot to get where I am in life, and I'm going to have to give up more. I know as my business grows and things change, I'm going to have to give up even more. So it's going to be, I'm looking forward to that process. And the law of victory, I hope, is one of my strengths. in the 21 laws. There's lots of things that I'm not going to be good at, so this is one of the ones I am good at. So I hope that you now have a better understanding of the law of victory and what it looks like from a biblical perspective, and you can marinate on that for a little bit and spend some time reflecting and see how that applies in your life. And is this an area of strength for you? Is there an area of weakness where you need to bring somebody else into your life to be in your inner circle to help you to bolster up this particular law? Whatever that is for you, it's okay. It works. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. I want to encourage you before we get out of here today to make sure that you, when we're done here, if you haven't been over to the FocusOnChrist.com website recently, that you head on over there. It's www.focusonchrist.com. Check that out and look at the resources we have on there. We have a ton of resources for you just there at FocusOnChrist.com. They're really going to help you to learn about, it's just some tools so you can help start to keep your focus on Christ on a daily basis in a much more concise and a formatted manner. And the reason that that's important is we want to establish good habits and good rituals over the course of time so that we can serve our Lord and Savior well. There's if you haven't liked our social media platforms, either our Facebook group, our Instagram page, or our podcast or our YouTube channel, then go ahead on over there and go ahead and subscribe to those channels so that you can stay up to date with the most relevant, most current information. We're always dropping new content, and I want what's best for you. I want to be able to help you the best I can. If you have any questions or comments that you would like for me to address directly, I would love to do that. I'll do that either on a podcast or I can do that privately. It doesn't matter. You can DM or PM on any one of those social media platforms, or you can send an email to support@focusonchrist.com. Leave a comment on this podcast on iTunes. It's whatever system works for you. I'd love to answer your questions directly, because at the end of the day, if I can serve you better, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to serve you to the highest level that I possibly can. So I hope this helped. I hope it added value to your day, and I am super excited about talking to you guys next time. God bless.